I do want to just quickly run back to time at Carlton, and some of the stuff that I've read is around the fact that you suffered from bulimia as well. And I know that that's probably not a conversation that often comes out of a male without being focusing on sexes and genders. What was that battle like for a professional athlete who, you know, everyone thinks is fit and healthy, but to then struggle with an eating disorder through that time where, you know, food effectively is your fuel to get the best out of your body, but then you had moments, from what I'd read, where you would treat yourself and then go and vomit it up because you were worried about what the coaches might think or how that might impact performance. Like, that must be exhausting.
I honestly look back and I was like, I don't know how I managed to do, you know, all of this stuff. So during, you know, so how it came about, you know, it got to the end of 2010. I had a real, you know, pretty awful run with injuries the previous, you know, 3 or 4 years. I broke my foot round 1, 2007, like in the first 2 minutes. 2008, dreaded syndesmosis. I tore that off my leg bones, had to have, you know, bolts reattached it all in a moon boot for 6 months. And then, you know, as I touched on before, my first year at Carlton, you know, 3 or 4 ops by the time the season finished up. So the coaches thought that the best thing for me was, you know, because I'd lost leg speed, I'd lost a lot of power. I didn't have much to begin with, you know, so I was really scraping the barrel. They thought the best thing for me was to lose a few kilos. And I naturally weighed 90, but I was already playing at 85. So they wanted me to get down to about 82 or 81. And the nutritionist advised against it. He said, "Nah, I don't think this is a really good idea, mate. I don't think it's not going to translate into more leg speed. And I just don't think it's a safe thing to do." But I'd made the decision in my mind to say, well, if this is what's going to get me back in the coach's good books, I will do anything it takes to get back to playing. And I just became so obsessed with food, weighing everything, cutting every bit of fat off, not treating myself, you know, to anything, you know, the all or nothing, right? So, you know, I would go, you know, 4 to 6 weeks without, you know, having a chocolate or a chip or a lolly or anything like that. But then it got to a point where it was like, fuck, I need to eat something. And I would just go on these really unhealthy binges. And then I would get the guilt. Then I would get the, fuck, I'm going to put on weight. The coaches aren't going to pick me. I'm not going to get back to playing. So initially I started going for runs, like to burn it all off.
Yeah.
We run like 10K run or a 10K walk and, you know, having my injury history, I was like, well, this isn't probably the smartest thing you could be doing, mate. So I thought, well, how can I still have these binges but, you know, get rid of them? So I started taking laxatives. So it got to a point where I would go on a binge. I'd go to the supermarket and buy $40 or $50 worth of junk food and sit there and eat it. And then like, fuck, what have I done? And I would take a whole box of laxatives.
Oh my God.
So if I did this over a weekend, like, you know, if I did it on a Sunday, you know, coming to training on a Monday, like trying to do a 3-hour pre-season session while you've got the worst stomach cramps in the world, you're running off, you're shitting water, you're coming back out to train.
It's hard enough.
And then after a while, I was like, well, I can't keep doing this. My stomach's churning. So I discovered purging, you know. And then, so I got to a point where I reckon nearly every night of the week, I would go and I would buy $40 or $50 worth of junk food. I was spending $250 or $300 worth of junk food a week to sit there and eat it and then purge it up afterwards. Because the feeling of, it was purely non-guilty eating because I knew I was going to throw it up afterwards. So I could sit there guilt-free and eat it. It was like I was rewarding myself without the consequences of it. So I would do that probably 5 nights a week. And then on the weekend after I'd played, I'd probably go out and go on a bender or, you know, smash some beers and, you know, maybe a bag of Coke or a couple of pills and rock up to training on a Monday morning, you know, sleep deprived and hungover, and then try and train. And I did that for like probably the best part of, I don't know, 3 or 4 years.
Yeah. And then like 2012, you had a really good year.
Yeah.
Finished 4th in the best and fairest. I know as an athlete, if you're doing something and you're actually playing well, you start to think that's the reason.
Yeah.
Did that start to self-fuel it?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. I mean, most athletes are extremely what's the word?
If
that
it
I'm looking for?
works.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
gonna
exactly.
do- I'm gonna
It's
do
all
it every
based
week.
around
Yeah.
your
Superstitious.
performance, you know. Yeah, superstitious. That's the word I was looking for. And I remember that year, I you know, because I didn't get picked. I think I played 3 or 4 games in 2011. You know, I remember one game I came back and played against Geelong. It was a Friday night at Etihad. Juddy kicked that amazing snap goal on his left foot, and then I think Robbie Warnock got concussed and missed that goal like right from the goal square. But anyway, I remember I played it in the first half, and I remember thinking to myself, I was like, "Fuck, the game's gone past me." And I remember I got subbed out at halftime, and the Carlton crowd absolutely erupted like the biggest cheers and celebrations.
God.
And
That's a good
so
feeling.
then the following year came around. I honestly thought it was going to be my last year, and I got picked early on against Essendon, and I was the sub, and then Andy Carazzo broke his arm in the first quarter, and I came on, and I didn't play badly, but I didn't play great either, and I got dropped the next week, and I thought my career was done. But Paul Williams, who was my midfield coach at the time, I spent a couple of years with him at the D's. I absolutely loved Will. I had a great relationship with him, so much respect for the guy as a player and as a coach, and we were doing my review, and he gave me just a brutal piece of feedback. He said, "Mate, you look soft at the moment." And I got really emotional at that because that was something that I hated.
Yeah.
You know,
Be
I
driven
didn't
into
want
you
to be
from a very young
called
age, right?
soft, but it was the best thing he could have said to me. And I just went away and I said, no matter what happens from here on in, I'm never going to be called soft, you know, again. And I think I got back in maybe round 8 or round 9 against the D's and had an absolute blinder. And, you know, as you said, ended up finishing, you know, 4th in the BNF. And because I was doing all that stuff, purging, partying, drinking, I thought this is the key to my, you know, resurgence. So as long as I'm playing well, I'm going to keep doing it. So, you know, the best thing for me would have been at the time was to play like shit, because it might have, you know, forced me to address what I was doing. But, you know, that wasn't the case, and, you know, that's sort of history now.